Welcome to a very short version of a very long history of right here where you are standing. Did you know that here, right here on this ground where you are standing, was once the bottom of a deep blue sea? 500 million years ago, this ocean covered most of the earth. The coastline fell somewhere in central Tennessee. Strange creatures swam in the sea. Some of them were trilobites. These many-legged armored invertebrates were kings of the sea. There were thousands of different kinds. Some were large, and some were tiny. Then they disappeared. 444 million years ago, the continents started pushing against each other.
Ow. Get out of my way. I was here first. I'm older.
North America, Europe, and Africa pushed and pushed. This made the middle rise up into a huge mountain range. The sea shrank back as the Appalachian Mountains grew really, really tall.
How tall were they?
They grew so tall, they were taller than the Rocky Mountains are now.
Wow.
This took just a little time, about 100 million years or so. As they rose up, they started getting worn down again by water and wind. Slowly, they wore away. But then more earthquakes pushed them back up again, folding and buckling the earth. And then they wore away again, several more times. 251 million years ago, right here on this ground where you are standing, which was very close to the equator at the time, grew a primeval forest. The forest was filled with strange creatures, like a duck? No, there weren't any ducks in the Triassic era. Oh, my grandpa was a hadrosaur? Oh, I see. Well, where's your grandpa? This is his cube. Ah, whoa, what a mighty creature you are. Isn't that amazing? Hadrosaurs were duck-billed dinosaurs that roamed the Appalachian Mountains, our bioregion's very own dino! Then they all disappeared. 55 million years ago, the mountains eroded, the oceans rose and fell. I'm looking for my place here. Where did it go? There we are.
Go back to 55 again.
Yeah, 55 million years ago. The mountains eroded, the oceans rose and fell. The Eocene period, western North Carolina, became the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. If there were many people yet, which there were not, they could have stood here, right here on this ground where you are standing, or nearby, and looked out over a vast ocean. Many strange creatures swam there. One of them was a 60-foot-long whale with big teeth called a basilosaurus. This guy descended from a hoofed land animal. That's right. His ancestor climbed onto land, grew legs, and then decided to go back to the ocean. He is a distant cousin of the cow. "15,000 years ago, the mountains got worn down some more. The continents moved around some more. The climate got colder and colder. Actually, it got pretty darn cold. Glaciers covered most of the northern hemisphere. Almost nothing could live there anymore. All the creatures that could migrated south, ahead of the ice. The ice finally stopped somewhere in Pennsylvania. But the animals didn't migrate back up north. Many of them, like the giant sloth, liked it so much they stayed right here.
Another fan! Go Taurus!
But alas, after a few thousand years, they disappeared too. Around the same time as humans showed up. These were hunter-gatherers that were the ancestors of the Cherokee. Some say they hunted the sloths to extinction. 300 years ago, European humans started to settle here. At that time, right here, where we are standing, these mountains were covered with dense old-growth forests. Huge chestnut, hickory, hemlock, and oak trees. In those trees were flocks of bright green parrots. Yes, parrots! Flocks of 200 to 300 brilliant, squawking Carolina parakeets were common here. They were the most northern of the parrot family. They ate seeds, nuts, and especially loved mulberries. The white settlers began to clear the land for timber and farming. This pushed the parakeets west as their habitat was lost. The settlers also hunted the parakeets for their colorful feathers, which were prized for ladies' hats. This was sadly too easy, because when one of their flock was shocked, the parakeets would return to her side and then be shocked themselves. The last wild Carolina parakeet was seen in 1910, and the last one of all died in a zoo in 1910, 100 years ago. Since the European settlers came to the southern Appalachians, hundreds of species have gone extinct. It's sad when creatures go extinct because of humans, but sometimes they come back from the brink. 50 years ago, you could stand in a meadow in the Blue Ridge Mountains in the autumn and see 50,000 monarch butterflies pass you by in an hour. Thousands went by, migrating to Mexico for the winter. Now, you would be lucky to see a few hundred. 90% of them are gone due to habitat loss, climate change, and pesticides. But their numbers have increased over the last couple of years. People can help endangered creatures. One way you can help is to plant milkweed in your school garden, like you've done right here at Vance Elementary. Milkweed is the only plant that monarchs will lay their eggs on. Please help the monarchs spread the word. And thank you for caring about the creatures of our bioregion.
One more round of applause. That was amazing. Thank you. Now we learned a few things, didn't we? Yes. Why we have to help protect our earth. So that's going to lead us to our next little presentation is our 5th grade girls.